There are moments in life when someone enters your world, and without quite knowing why, something in you exhales. They do not arrive as a stranger. They arrive like a memory, like a feeling you once knew long before you had words for it. You sense a kind of recognition, not in your mind, but somewhere older, somewhere deeper. A whisper inside you says, "Ah, yes, this. I know this." And when that someone happens to be a narcissist, this recognition can feel strangely profound, magnetic, inevitable. As though fate has threaded the two of you together, but what you're recognizing is not the person. You are recognizing the pattern they carry, a pattern woven into you in childhood. Quietly, in the rhythm of how love was offered to you and how it was withheld. You are not drawn to a soulmate. You are drawn to a déjà vu of the soul. And so, let us walk into this familiar territory together, not to dwell in pain, but to finally understand the pull you've been mistaking for destiny. The mind is a remarkable creature. It does not cling to what is good, it clings to what is known. It holds on to what it once survived. And so, familiarity becomes a strange kind of comfort, even when it hurts, even when it restricts you, even when it binds you to people who cannot love you well. If love once came with uncertainty, you may find yourself seeking uncertainty as proof of love. If affection once came wrapped in fear, you may confuse fear with passion. And if attention once came only in rare, intense bursts, you may mistake intensity for intimacy. This is how the past quietly becomes the present, how the familiar disguises itself as meaningful, and how a wound masquerades as connection. And when you encounter someone whose emotional rhythm matches the one laid down in you long ago, your whole being responds, not with logic, but with recognition. This is why the narcissist feels like home, not because they are home, but because they echo the home you once had to adapt to. Childhood is the great architect of our inner world. Long before you understood anything, you learned everything, not through explanations, but through experience. Some of you grew up in homes where love was real, but inconsistent. A warm sun that disappeared behind clouds without any warning. You were cherished at times, ignored at others. And so you learned to feel safe in uncertainty. And some of you walked through childhoods where love and danger lived side by side, where silence carried weight, where you learned to read the atmosphere the way a sailor reads the sea, sensing storms before they arrived. And yes, some of you grew up in homes where the harm was not accidental, where caregivers' wounds spilled into you, where cruelty had a rhythm, where your smallness made you vulnerable to someone else's unhealed chaos. If that was your childhood, you're not imagining it. Your body remembers. But childhood was shaped not only by family, but by culture. There was a time, not so long ago, when parents were told not to pick up crying babies, a time where emotional closeness was discouraged, a time when tenderness was considered indulgence and independence was demanded far too early. Many parents were doing what they believed was right. Some didn't know better. Some couldn't do better. And whether the wounds were subtle or severe, the result was the same. Your nervous system formed a map of connection based not on what love is, but on what love felt like in the hands of those who raised you. And here's the truth most people never hear. Your hesitation to look back at your childhood is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of protection, a reflex born in a time when seeing clearly would have overwhelmed you. When you were small, you depended entirely on the adults around you. Your safety, your sense of the world, your hope of surviving, all of it flowed through them. A child cannot risk seeing their caregivers in ways that threaten that bond. To do so would feel like stepping off the edge of existence. And so the mind, in its quiet brilliance, performed an act of compassion. It softened the edges. It blurred what was too sharp. It told gentler stories, not because the truth wasn't there, but because the truth would have been too much for a young nervous system still learning how to exist. This is why, even now, as an adult with strength and clarity, a hesitation remains. A turning away, a quiet instinct to protect yourself from what you once could not hold. But listen carefully. This avoidance is not denial. It is preservation, an act of mercy from the mind to the self. And now, standing on firmer ground, held by your adult awareness, you can look back with compassion rather than fear. The truth is no longer something to survive. It is something to integrate. A narcissist feels familiar not because they are meant for you, but because they embody the emotional weather you were trained to navigate. Their inconsistency, present one moment, absent the next, mirrors the unpredictable tides of childhood. Their neediness, the hunger for validation, admiration, attention, awakens the caretaker in you. The child who once held emotional responsibilities far too heavy for small hands. Their volatility, the sudden storms of anger, the quiet freezes of withdrawal, resonates with an early landscape you learned to survive. And their love bombing, excessive affection, bright intensity, that intoxicating warmth, touches the deepest longing in you. The longing to be seen, chosen, valued, without conditions. And their withdrawal, the turning away, the silence, the emotional distance, awakens the oldest wound of all. The wound of waiting for someone who never quite came. You are not binding yourself to the narcissist. You are binding yourself to the hope that the past might finally resolve itself through them. But the narcissist cannot heal a wound they did not cause. They can only reopen it. And yet, something remarkable happens the moment you name the pattern. When you see clearly that what feels like home is simply what is familiar, and what is familiar is simply what is repeated, you awaken to a new possibility. You realize that the emotional pool was never fate. It was memory, an emotional memory. You are no longer the child trying to make sense of a confusing world. You are the adult who can choose a different one. Familiarity is strong, but awareness is stronger. And the moment you see the pattern for what it is, the spell begins to lose its power. You may feel something shifting inside you now. A gentle opening, a widening of inner space. Not because the past has changed, but because you have. Your patterns were never signs of failure. They were evidence of brilliance, a young mind adapting to impossible circumstances with creativity, instinct, and strength. And now, you no longer need to navigate love through the old map. You are learning a new one. You no longer have to chase intensity. You no longer have to earn closeness. You no longer have to shrink or bend yourself to be worthy. Calm may feel unfamiliar at first. Steadiness may feel foreign. Kindness may feel suspicious. But stay with them. These sensations, though new, are not empty. They're spacious. They're soft. They're true. And one day, quietly, without fanfare, you will encounter someone who does not awaken the old ache. Someone whose presence is gentle, whose affection is steady, whose love does not require your suffering to sustain it. This person may feel unusual at first, but that strangeness is the feeling of returning to the version of you who always deserved to be loved without fear. You are not broken. You are not unlovable. You are simply remembering a new kind of familiar, one rooted in peace rather than survival. And this, finally, is the beginning of coming home to yourself. Thank you for listening, and if something in you softened or opened while listening, you are welcome to stay connected here, and thank you for spending this time with me.